require of human beings is not working in the way that it should. Because if it worked, then we would see people and understand that people deserve a fair chance.
First of all, my people, when a small island nation stands on the global stage and tells the powerful countries of the world a truth they have spent centuries avoiding, this is not just another speech. This is a moment that shocks the room in Spain when Barbados Prime Minister spoke directly about imperialism and refused to sugarcoat history. Because in a world where global leaders often speak in polished diplomacy, careful not to offend, this speech was different. It was bold, it was unapologetic, and most importantly, it was honest, because behind the elegance and calm delivery was a message that challenged the very foundation of global power. Standing before world leaders, the Prime Minister didn't just talk about climate change or economic struggles. She connected the dots. She pointed out how the wealth of powerful nations didn't appear overnight. It was built through centuries of exploitation, colonizations, and systems designed to extract resources from places like the Caribbean, Africa, and beyond. She reminded the audience that countries like Barbados are now being asked to solve crises they didn't create. Climate disaster, economic instability, debt burdens, and yet the same global systems that benefited from imperialism are still controlling the rules today. Her words cut deep. How can a nation that once took so much now hesitate to give back what is needed for survival? This wasn't anger for the sake of anger, it was clarity. A call for accountability, a demand for fairness. She spoke not just for Barbados, but for every small nation that has been told to catch up, while carrying the weight of a history they never chose. And in that moment, the room fell into a kind of silence that only the truth can create, because everyone understood this was bigger than politics. This was about justice. So the question now is, will the world listen, or will speeches like this become just another headline, or ignored by the very systems they challenged? Because one thing is clear, the era of quiet diplomacy is fading, and voices like this are no longer asking for change, they are demanding it. Let's listen to the speech of the Prime Minister of Barbados that shook the entire hall in Spain.
Good afternoon to everyone. I want to say thank you to my dear brother Pedro and to President Lula for ensuring that we can gather together to discuss things that matter to ordinary people. And in that, it's important for me to say why I say so. Democracy works when it delivers for people. And I come from a country that has known what it is to be a pawn of others for the majority of our modern existence. I come from a party that was established 88 years ago to help stop poor people from being poor and to fight injustice and to create opportunities for our people. And I don't say so for the sake of saying so, because today our people have access to free tertiary education, free primary, free secondary education. Today the people of my country have access to free healthcare, and while we battle with the quality of healthcare because of the increasing cost globally and particularly in the Western Hemisphere, we remain resolute about being able to give them the best healthcare possible that we can give them. I come from a country where public transport and where social security works for ordinary people. I come from a country that introduced a minimum wage in the middle of COVID, when others said that the economy would collapse. And we said, let us try. And we tried and we introduced it, and the minimum wage has been increased twice in the last 6 years. I come from a country that knows that democracy works when it delivers for people. But part of the difficulty that we have is that the majority of persons globally who have been given the opportunity to come out of poverty do not look back and see those who they left. And whether that is those who have come out of poverty in rich countries, or those who have come out of poverty in middle-income countries, or those who have come out of poverty in poor countries, the conscience, that we require of human beings is not working in the way that it should. Because if it worked, then we would see people and understand that people deserve a fair chance. And we would recognize that healthcare is a basic right, not a luxury. And we would get it. That affordable wages, livable wages, must be the target for all of us. We have a world that is at war. A world that is at war in Europe, a world that is at war in Africa, a world that is at war in the Middle East, a world that is at war with inequality, a world that is at war with the planet. And the one people who can change it on earth is human beings. But we have to choose to do better. And I believe that it is possible for us to do so. You may ask, if democracy is working for us in our small state, why am I here? I am here because the international community has not made it possible for small states to be able to breathe properly, for small states to participate in a global community in an international rules-based order that is essential for us to survive. I am here because 80 years after the Bretton Woods institutions were created, and created in the image of the handful of countries that existed at the time, they still do not see small states. They still do not see developing states. They are still prepared to accept that 600 million people can go in the world without basic access to electricity, that water and food insecurity is as large as it is, regrettably, among the majority of our people. And the best kept secret is that the majority of poor people do not live in poor countries globally. The majority of poor people live in middle income and upper middle income countries globally. And this brings us back to the reality of choice. We have choice about how we spend our money. We have choice about what matters to us. And we have choice ultimately about what battles we fight and what wars we start and what wars we end. And we will only be able to achieve that if ordinary people hold ordinary leaders to account, and if leaders remember how they got there rather than forgetting the ladder upon which they climbed to be able to exercise power. In this world, we need fairness and we need solidarity. And without fairness and without solidarity, we are not going to achieve the things that can save the planet. We're not going to achieve the things that will lift people out of poverty. We're not going to improve the working conditions of working class people. We're not going to be able to ensure that we immunize ourselves from future pandemics which will kill without reference to age, stage, or wealth. I ask us today to recognize that it is in the small things that we do at the level of our families and at the level of our communities that will make nations stronger. And it is only when we have strong nations prepared to stand up for what they believe in that we can have a fairer world and that we can fight for the rights that are preserved and articulated in the United Nations Charter. But if ordinary people allow the not so good to pass, and if ordinary people turn a blind eye to the bad, and if ordinary people become blind to what is evidently in front of them, then people get accustomed to believing that they can get away with it and that impunity will always be the order of the day for them. We can only turn the wheel by holding each other to account. And I ask therefore, Pedro, I ask therefore, my brother and my sisters, that we get the message across. And principles will only mean something when it is inconvenient to stand by them. To that end, it means that we have to confront the reality of our past as well, and to recognize that until we repair the past of the Americas, until we address the issue of reparations as well, we are not going to be able to have an honest conversation with each other, even as progressives. I ask us equally to recognize that we do not live in an echo chamber. And as much as we believe in what we believe and will fight for what we believe, we must be prepared to have conversations with those who do not agree with us. And it is in having those conversations that we begin to frame out what I have called for: global, moral, strategic leadership. Because two wrongs do not make right. Global, because the whole world is now affected by a movement that does not see people and that wants to continue the deepening divide of wealth and poverty. Moral, because we have to do the right thing for the right reasons, and too many people are using others to gain what they want in terms of imperial ambitions for land, for property, for wealth, for power. But they use people to get that. And strategic, because we cannot boil the ocean. We have to pick which issues we can win. And I say to you that making the international system fairer so that it can work for us, so that we can save both people and planet, because we are human beings that can walk and chew. We are human beings that know how to do multiple things, and it is not impossible to save the planet while creating opportunities for poor people to stop being poor. It is possible. And it is against that backdrop that I want to be able to bring to this platform a man whose work has reflected strong moral strategic leadership, seeing people first, working through the union movement, working ultimately as a leader of people in his own country, and fighting against the odds to continue to speak truth to all who will listen. My brother, the President of Brazil, President Lula, has stood up for these values, and he has the benefit of a country that is the size of the largest of the countries of the world. And he has therefore the ability to shape and to lead. And President Lula, I say to you that it is important that that moral strategic voice continue to be the anchor, and to continue to let ordinary people who sit wherever they are sitting this Saturday afternoon in their homes, to know that people are listening to them, to know that people are seeing them, and above all else, to know that people feel them in their hearts and will work for them. We do not expect to attain all in our lifetime, but we do not have the luxury to step back away from the gains that we have made, and there can be no complacency, especially today, with people who are fighting to reverse and to maintain a status quo. And I say therefore to you, President Lula, we hand the stage to you, recognizing that your voice and your capacity to anchor a progressive movement that is not about isms and schisms, but is about people. It's about people. It's about people. I ask you to come to the stage and address us all. Thank you, and God bless you, and thank you, Brother Pedro.